Hello and welcome to Autistic Radio. Thank you to the kindness of our sponsors, coldpack.co.uk. You can support us by using their website to buy your cryotherapy needs, either as a practitioner or a home user.
Hello all, this is Harry's Facebook for Sunday the 11th of January 2026, and this is where we discuss Facebook posts that have been shared on the autisticradio.com page. And the first post is from Soulfully Neurodivergent, which is a personal blog. It shares the following. You know how we have the word mansplaining? We need a similar word for the neurotypicals doing that to neurodivergent people.
I think I've only had that happen once with just a regular, member of society, but I feel it sometimes from professionals.
Yeah, I think I've heard some people actually say that. Not in that sort of way, the mansplaining sort of template, for want of a better term. Someone telling someone who is neurodivergent what neurodivergent is, or autistic people what autism is, to them, even though they know what it is. But they're being told who they are and basically given a sort of life description, sort of being downtrodden and patronised. Or maybe not downtrodden, maybe that's a bit harsh, depending on the experience of whoever's had that experience. But basically doing it with good intentions, but still leaves a bad taste in the mouth, even though it's done, not with bad intentions at all. The next post is from On Time and Space, which is a page on children and parenting, supporting and empowering neurodiverse families, lived experience and professional expertise, autism, psychology, education, SCN, PG cert professionals, community groups, one-to-one family support, workshop and training on neurodivergence, advocacy for SEN, based in the UK, and they shared the following. 2 years of own time and space. Today we celebrated everything this space stands for. Connection, creativity, regulation, laughter, and belonging. From messy play to movement, sensory calm to shared smiles, today was special. Thank you to every family who has walked through our doors, supported us, trusted us, and grown with us over the last 2 years. We're so proud of what this space has become, and we're only just getting started. And they share some pictures of what they do.
There's no patronising language in this. It's lovely to see that a group has put together a space where some autistic kids can express themselves, play with the things and be out there. And then when they've posted about it, they haven't talked down to them. They've just simply said what it is and how it works and that it's been successful, and it's just very respectful. I like that.
Yeah, I like it too. What I like about it, apart from what you said, Jules, which I totally agree with, the lack of patronising language, which is always welcome, is knowing that there's somewhere like this. And it's a fairly simple concept in a way. A safe space, not medicalised, it doesn't seem. A safe space for autistic children, the families. And what I also like is it's a milestone celebration. 2 years since it started. 2 years since they began the journey of what they want to do. And the celebration of what they've done so far, and also saying that it's only the beginning.
You know what I noticed? I'm picking up on the beauty of the photographs. The colors are very rich. Somebody spent a lot of time on these photographs. Many of them don't show the faces, except for this one, where the people involved in the activity just look so focused. And to me, that means whoever curated these photos really cares.
Yeah, it's such a soothing colour, that purple. Although, everybody's different, and some folk like that colour and some won't. So it's not a matter of whether they like it or not, but we have to distinguish that people have different sensory realities. So getting in touch with a sensory reality is the vibe I'm getting from this.
There's such simplicity in it as well. They've created a space with materials, and they appear to be letting the children decide what it's all about. It doesn't seem imposed on them. And generally things get overcomplicated, especially when somebody's trying to help a different group than themselves. There's usually a controlling element to the whole thing. But just from this post, it looks as though they're allowing the kids themselves to lead it, and the intensity of what they're doing is created by themselves, rather than the normal thing is to have children being held by the hands and instructed, and children paraded to demonstrate what's happening. And they haven't done that here. And that gives the impression of the group as one that is really respectful of neurodivergence, just from this post.
There will always be that adult guidance, though, won't there? It's just a fact of life. I was having a kind of big debate this week with someone about, children's literature, stories for kids, and how these stories are never written by kids, they're written by adults, with that sort of childlike mind, perhaps at best. But what would a child write if it had the chance to write? Well, children do tell stories, but whether or not that's afforded is another matter. And there would be an element, I think, sometimes, maybe I'm assuming too much, but there would be an element of chaos sometimes in voluntary childhood activity. I can recall creating our own stories and realities when we were younger, and there was no adult guidance really in some of it, but that's kind of gone by the time you're a teenager and you're being well trained. So hopefully that's not too much what's going on there, but I thought I'd bring that in a wee bit, given what you just said, Jules.
I wholeheartedly agree with you, Ray. But parents, generally, when they're doing their best work, they're not directing. They're supporting and enabling, but they're not directing. I know we live busy worlds, and there's safeguarding, and there's just get things done because we have to go on to the next thing. But when parents are able to do their best work with their kids, it's the supporting thing. And I think that moves over to the autistic, non-autistic world. When services are there designed for autistic people, they are designed for autistic people, not by autistic people. And they are generally prescriptive, and even with the best intention, they don't just benignly suppression from this. That's what's happening.
Just a final thing, I'd say that the title or name of the group is fantastic, given what we've just spoken about: Own Time and Space.
The next post is my Inspired Mind Harry's blog, and what it talks about is a football fan's journey, Dumbarton FC, and it says the following: the picture shared shows me unhappy, and this is only natural as it is after watching my favourite club, Dumbarton FC, lose to Stirling Albion that day. However, the day was the 27th of December, and it marked a year since I became a season ticket holder of the club. I was never interested in Scotland's obsession of association football as a child, and was even ridiculed for this because all the boys liked football, and I didn't. It just wasn't for me at the time. However, as time progressed into adulthood, I slowly developed an interest through my initial following of the Scotland national football team. Dumbarton were the local football league team to where I lived. So from around 1999, I started to follow their results, hoping for an emotional response for the win, lose or draw. It took time, but the result outcomes began to matter in what mood it created. Things slowly progressed, and not being a fan of crowds, it took time to attend my first game. Eventually I went down to get the experience, and it grew on me. This eventually grew to occasional visits over the years, and every result mattered. For years I pondered and was asked, why don't I become a season ticket holder? I was never sure of such a commitment, not because of results, the style of football or location. It was a question of if I could sit in a crowd of people on a regular basis, which would be approximately every 2 weeks, considering league games from August to May. The perfect, not perfect opportunity came along in December 2024, during which Dumbarton FC were going through an uncertain future and in need of funds. A half-season ticket purchase was advertised. I felt, considering the position, this was the best time to give it a go. Despite the uncertainty at the time, I felt it was one of the best decisions I ever made. The same seat, the regular routine. Even though performances and results weren't great, and things remained uncertain for a time, I felt comfortable. I was happy to be there. I was happy of the new regular date in the diary. Eventually, the club was thankfully saved from certainty with new owner Mario Laponte taking over. When the season ended in May 2025, I was satisfied enough to progress to a full season ticket for the season ahead. Time then flies, and a year has passed, and the glum on my face is not lack of enjoyment or regretting my decision. It was just a natural response to results not being what I wanted. This is what football is about: win, lose or draw, and feeling part of something special.
Wow, I really like this. It explains to me some things that I hadn't considered. And it also, in what you're explaining about the regularity, but also the change, you changed over a period of time when other people think we can't change, but you did it on your own terms and you did it gradually. You know, the plasticity of the brain is also the plasticity of us as people, how we can change ourselves, as long as it's us moulding ourselves rather than from the outside. And then you found your own way of making that comfortable routine and involving yourself in it. I think it's a really good way of explaining to a lot of people how autism is not this blanket concept. It is a movable, changeable thing. We are human beings with brains. We're not just a fixed idea ourselves, even if we're interested in a routine and a fixed thing sometimes that makes us feel comfortable.
This is what I used to refer to as finding an in to something. It's like making something that seems uninteresting and not part of your world somehow interesting to you, to find the connection. And that's why I think it's a lot more than sport in what Harry's written here. You know, it can apply to a lot of different social scenarios, but also to personal relationship scenarios. We will often say, I'm not this, I'm not that, I don't do this. And yet, maybe 10 years later, you're doing it, and you maybe not even know why you've ended up doing what you didn't do before. But somehow you made it of interest to you. You found a connection to it. And nobody should do anything prescribed. Nobody should feel pressure or influence to do anything. But if you can find your own connection and open up to it, that's kind of living, isn't it?
Yes. The interesting thing is what's brought anything of interest to me is by someone suggesting something, a friend. I don't know about others, but in my experience, each friend that I've had has given an opportunity to discover something new. When I was a child, nobody who was a friend of mine was that interested in football. So there wasn't that sort of kind of encouragement to, not to be forced to like it, but someone to actually sit and explain about it, or even go through a journey with someone to liking it. But I've had friends who introduced me to a new band, new TV programme, these sort of things. And that's where the football came along, is it was introduced and it was something slow. And I was thinking, when I was introduced to the sport, I'm thinking, well, the way in was the national team of football because it's your country they're representing. It's like if they win or lose, it matters a lot. And then it just became a journey of what's the local football team, something that mattered. So if there's a connection there, an enjoyment there, and that's how the journey went. But I think the most important thing that I wanted to put in this particular blog, and what's been discussed already, is it was my decision to pursue that passion, to pursue that hobby, to do that thing. There was no heavy encouragement or saying that you must do this. It was like a kind of gradual journey. I mean, there might have been that instance where I would be interested and I thought, no, it's not for me, and I'd move on. Even though I can't think of anything at the moment, there must have been things I've tried and I thought, no, that's not for me, and I've moved on. But this was something that did. It kind of had a connection, it had a meaning. It's something I was interested in. And I don't know about other autistic people, but there's not a lot I like. There's certain things that I like, and it's a comfort blanket in a way, knowing that there's things that I definitely like and comfortable with. And that's what I was putting across in this blog. And this sort of kind of normal thing that if you need to like something in childhood to like something later in life, which, as we know, a lot of nonsense. It's about experience and about life. And it's about, as Jules has actually said already, is that autistic people aren't fixed human beings and willing to experience things in different times of life, childhood, adulthood. It's just the journey of life. And that's what I was trying to illustrate in the blog.
Harry, would you say a big thing here is trust? Because that's what I'm feeling. Trust in your friends, obviously, because they're kind of introducing you to things. But also I've found trust in yourself to be confident in what you like and what you want. Because sometimes knowing what you want can be half the battle.
Yes, that is true. Trust and feeling safe. And I like the buzz of discovering something that, hey, I like this. Because I feel within myself, maybe I'm not fussy, but I feel I am fussy. It's when I find something that I like, I grab hold onto it for dear life and just appreciate that moment has come. And appreciate it so much that it becomes part of routine and it becomes something to look forward to and something lifelong.
There can be a weird and exciting novelty in repetition.
That was so beautifully written. And to me, not to everybody, it is the most beautiful game. But I think to a lot of people around the world, it is a beautiful game. And my friend who's also autistic and I, last night, we joined Canada Red. It's a big soccer fan club. And we call it soccer here. We have to distinguish it from American and Canadian football. But her special interest is football. And she does call it football because she went to university in Scotland.
In the text, Robbie's talked about he was never interested in football and he found socialising through music, through the same predictability and the control of what I play. I choose songs I play. And also, I need to take part rather than just watch. I would do archery, but have no interest in following other archers or being competitive. So sometimes when it comes to a hobby, even in sport, it's not just about watching something in a competitive sense, but doing something, not in a competitive sense, but doing something you enjoy, a hobby that you enjoy. And in football, I did do that for some time. I did actually play it, but I was competitive in fairness. But I can see how people can do things and not be competitive. It's just doing something you enjoy.
I'm more of a solo sport person, like running, cycling, little triathlons. Not anymore though, but cycling still, yeah. The only companion I have is my dog in his basket.
Robbie also shared something that I'm familiar with. I was forced to play football in school. and I was one of the children the teens were forced to have. And I can recall that in school, and a few sports. And looking back at school, for football especially, humiliation of being the last to be picked or not being picked, as Robbie's just shared. But for some reason, particularly in football, if you were the first to be picked, or if you were good at it, it was like a status symbol. It's like this sort of status symbol saying if you were good at something, or if someone thought or said you were good at something, i.e. like an authority like a school, it's like you were treated better than you would be if you weren't able to do it or you weren't interested in doing it. I suppose a lot of school was, as Robbie says, compliance, and you did a lot of things you didn't want to do. And maybe that was why I wasn't that interested in sport at all as a child, because it was something you were told you must do as part of being taught, part of education. It was like, with anything, it's like you enjoy something because you choose to do it rather than being told you must do it.
Yeah, that traumatic introduction to any formal experience, especially at school. You reminded me of the people I used to know when I was young who found some reason to avoid PE. They would usually get a sort of medical letter or something. And really it was because they just didn't like the exposure. They just didn't like the whole situation of being forced into certain things. And what you were saying there about, that scene, which you see often in movies and plays and things and stories about the last to be picked. Yeah, all that. This makes me think of something I've been looking at recently, this idea of like how the world is kind of mythic, people fall into roles. The environment almost forces it upon you. If you're in a strict environment like schooling, a system, then you can't escape, can you? And you're given the shit role, the bad role, not the role you would possibly choose from your heart, which is the mythic, I think, which is like your place in the world beyond systems. So I'm getting a bit deep there, but, it's a reflection on what you've written here, Harry. Thank you.
The next post is from Els For Autism, which is a non-profit organisation in the United States, transforming lives, Els For Autism, the Els Centre of Excellence, Earn the Els, Game On Autism, Sports, You Can Employ, Big Easy, Cafe by Earn the Els. And they shared the following. Our clients in the Adult Day Training EDT programme are finding their rhythm through music therapy. From singing to playing instruments, each session is filled with creativity, connection, and confidence. The benefits of music therapy for individuals with autism are powerful. Here are just a few. It supports communication and self-expression, reduces stress and helps regulate emotions, encourages social interaction and connection, improves focus, attention, and memory, and builds confidence and emotional awareness. And it shared some pictures of the program, and it also has a link to the program itself.
This place looks like fun, too. And I just looked up who Ernie Els was. His son is autistic, and this looks really good.
From the text, the word clients isn't received very well. And anytime I see something saying clients, it always kind of makes me kind of not be keen. But then again, clients has been used in my experience instead of patient, which in the language world is supposed to be more positive, more inclusive, and less patronising. But it can still sound patronising depending on who's reading it and how it's described. The next post is from Diversity Kids. It's a community page, programs, tips, strategies, resources, support, coaching, and training around inclusion and diversity in children's services and education. A one-stop shop for all your cultural and bilingual inclusion support needs, based in Australia. And they share a quote. They laugh at me because I'm different. I laugh at them because they're all the same.
I remember the first time I really thought about that. I was out with my daughter, who is neurodivergent, and maybe she was 12, and we were in this really hip part of town, and these two teenagers were dressed identically, but in a way that they might have thought was 100% unique and really edgy. And my daughter said so loud that, really loud, "Do you think they phoned each other this morning to decide what to wear?"
What I found interesting about the quote, it's goodbye childhood again, I suppose. It's like you were laughed at or criticised because you were different and not within the norm. But this quote turns it on its head by saying, well, I'm different, but everybody else, to me, is all the same. So if you turn it on its head like that, it makes you, well, it's made me feel a little bit better. Well, I'm different. I'm unique. I'm me. But everybody else, by the way people are criticising me for who I am, are all the same. So all these people all blend into one. There's no uniqueness. There's no personality. It's just like the average person they talk about all rolled into one. So it's one way of reminding yourself that being different isn't a bad thing.
Everybody else is unique. They just don't accept it.
Yeah, that's one way of putting it, yeah. Everybody is unique, of course they are. But it's accepting it and not accepting it. The thing of keeping up with the Joneses sort of thing, the feeling to need to mask, suppress yourself, because if you do things too differently or do things naturally that you feel to do, it's like it's artificial and it's not real. And it gives a false sense to other people that may be more obviously different. And it gives a very confused message, a very damaging message, is that don't be yourself, comply and do what you're supposed to do in terms of these set rules that are given to you by people that probably don't even follow those rules themselves.
Takes a lot more bravery to be different and not follow the trends.
Thanks everyone, that was a great discussion as always, and thanks to the people who shared these posts for the topics that we talked about tonight. So this is Harry's Facebook for Sunday the 11th of January 2026, which is part of Spectrum Voices Conversation, which is live every Sunday from 5:55 PM to 7 PM UK time. And I look forward to doing the same next week, as always. So thank you once again, and good night.